So unit test execution is always part of your build process. Since once you compile your code, then you create your artifacts like jar. So and then you have the tests that are available to validate the source changes and then give some report. That is why tests are important. They run against your source code with a given set of parameters and with a pre-expected output, and then validate the code against this output to see if the test has failed or passed. So any unit test, any test is about firing the source methods on a given input. Let the code, let it run through the code and get some output. And since you are giving a known input, you know the expected output as well. You compare the code, you compare the output that has been generated by the logic with your pre-expected output, and then you take a assertion whether this test has passed or not. If you take an example of calculating a square root is your method. So if you give a number, it will generate the square root of it. So and then if it is coming to a nearest integer, if it is a perfect square, then you print it. Otherwise, you don't calculate it. So you will give 4 for finding the square root, and then you know the expected output has to be 2. Your code has to run through your source code has the logic of calculating the square root of a given number. It will give you some output. You know that since you are giving 4, your output is going to be 2, because square root of 4 is 2. So you know that whenever I give an input 4 for the square root method, I should get an output of 2. So you assert this 2 with what your code has given you. If your logic is correct, you will also get 2 from the logic. And if the output from your source code and the expected output match, then the test has passed. Otherwise, the test has failed. Is it not? As simple as that. So tests are always intended to run against your source code with a predefined input, get the output, compare it with the pre-expected output, and then assert whether test is passing or failing. So now we have to run test cases after the build is over. Okay. So now when you want to run the test cases, you need to do 2 steps. Remember, in Java, unit tests are written as JUnits. In Java, unit tests are written as JUnits. So even if it is a JUnit, it is written in Java language only. So like you compile your Java code, you also have to compile your JUnit test cases also. So one step that you have to do is compilation. Okay. So whenever it's a run test, it will always depends on what? Compile tests. So it gives me a new target. The name is equal to what? Compile tests. So I need to compile my test cases first. Why? Yes, that is also Java code only. So if I want to run that Java code, I need to compile it. So now my run test target is actually giving me a dependency with compilation of tests. So compile test is like how we compiled our source code, Java C task. Once I compile them, then I have to run my test cases. Okay, that can be run with a task called JUnit. That can be run with a task called JUnit. So now, first let me fill up my compilation task. Then I will fill up my run JUnit task. In this process, whenever I am getting new directories that I should create, I will add them in my init target, because every new directory that I need, I am creating in my init target. Okay. So before I proceed, let me show you the source structure once. So now I have test folder inside which I have my test cases. Remember, the packaging structure which you see in your source code will be similar mostly with your test cases also. Okay. Generally, JUnit tests end with the test. That's a convention. This is how you look at JUnit test case. What JUnit best practice suggests is they end with test. There can be two types of tests. One is a test suite, another one is a test case. Okay. So a set of test cases can be grouped as a suite. So whenever I run my suite, all test cases will run. Or I can run individual test cases also. Why I have a suite and a test case separate mechanism is, if I put test cases here, JVM can run the test case in any order. We can't put any regulation in the order of test execution. But if I put them in a suite, it will execute the test cases in a suite one by one. That is the advantage. You get additional advantage. So if you have some test cases which need to be run one after another, I always put them under test suite. So the mechanism for running a test suite or test case is the same. If there is suite, it will run the suite. If there is test case, it will run the test case. So now I have my test cases under which folder? Test folder. So let me put my Java C target. So now what is my SRC directory? You will tell me that the test case sources are available in test directory. Under that, direct test packages are there. So this is clear. Now destination directory, where do I want to put my compiled test cases? Let me put them under build/test/classes. Build/test/classes is the location where I am going to put my compiled class files. Then class path. See, for compiling my test cases, see, test cases are nothing but calling your source code and getting the output, comparing the output with the output to decide whether test passed or not. So if I want to run my test, if I want to compile my test cases, I will always point them to my source code. Okay. So the class path will contain what? The location of my compiled source code. Where is my compiled source code? Build/classes. In this folder, I have my source code being compiled. Okay. So unless when I am compiling my test code, I provide the source code. It can't run, it can't compile, because in test case, if you see, I'll show you the test case also. If you look at what exactly lies in a test case, see, it just calls our source code only. Cell is a source method. Okay. So it calls that and then compares. Am I getting the output? Am I getting the output? This is my expected output. It asserts for equality. This method which he has called should return some values. He is comparing whether I am getting this in the column, this in the row. If he is getting that, then this construction is doing good. Otherwise, this construction is not doing good. Okay. So for compiling my test cases, I need to know my compiled source code path, which is nothing but build/classes. So I have put this compilation step. Now, what next? You will tell me that since I talked about a new directory structure here, build/test/classes, you will ask me to put that in my main directory. So build/test/classes. Good. Now I have completed my compilation. It is as simple as that. Now, what next? Just a small thing. I needed to put this in my compiled text, right? Not in my run text. Okay, I have done compilation now. What next? I need to run the tests which are present in this. Now, end of this compilation target, what is going to happen? In the build slash test slash classes, I have certain code, compiled code of all my test cases. Now, I need to run this compiled version. Then I'll get my output. Is it not? So, for running test cases for JUnit, I have a JUnit target. Okay, now you look at it. I will explain the individual elements in this. JUnit is the task. Directory where you want to run. Where is my test class files? Build slash test slash classes. My JUnit should run on this directory. Is it not? Then maximum memory. If I want to specify any memory, I can specify it like this. Optional. It is not mandatory. Print summary. I want to get the summary on a console, on an output folder. Then I say print summary is equal to yes. Again optional. Fork is equal to yes. Let me explain you this. Halt on failure, like it's like fail on error. Okay. These are all optional attributes. Generally, you all put all these things in your JUnit task. This fork is equal to yes is important. I want all of you to understand it. This fork is equal to yes means, see, whenever I type ant here, right, what is ant built on? Java. Right? So it launches a Java, it launches a JVM, a Java program to run all this build script. Now again I am calling inside this build script I am calling a JUnit, which is again a Java program. Okay. So you want that Java program to run inside this ant call only. You want to run this Java program, or you want to launch a separate process. And whenever I type ant, okay, whenever I type ant, it's a Java process because it's built on Java. Whenever I run ant, I am internally running a Java process. This JUnit is also a Java process, which is being run inside ant. It means it's a Java process running inside a Java process. Okay. So fork is equal to yes. In a OS terminology, fork is equal to yes. We'll launch a new process separately to run this part, rather than running it within inside this ant process. Okay. So do I want to run this inside this Java process only, or I want to launch it as a separate process? That is nothing but my fork is equal to yes. Fork will generate a new process for running this task. If I don't specify this JUnit also will be run as a process inside my current Java process only. However, to this level, it's not required. We don't need to worry too much about these things. Now, at this stage, what all I want you to understand is JUnit. This is the directory I want to run my JUnit. This is only mandatory thing. Class path. You know that if I want to run my JUnit.jar must be there. Similarly, for running my JUnit, for running my test classes, I need to have my have my classes, compiled classes in my class path. Is it not? I need to have them in my class path. So this is another way to define class path. Whenever I have multiple folders to be included in the class path, I will say path element. Path is equal to build slash classes. Path element. Path is equal to lib slash JUnit.jar. Path element. Path is equal to lib slash blah blah blah. If the class path contains elements from multiple directories, this is simple. This is a better way to give. put list of path elements. Very convenient thing. You can list as many as you want. This formatter type is equal to XML. It's like how do I want my output in XML format. So either I can run single test, or if I want to run whole folder, I have to use this batch test. Test the whole batch. Which batch? Build slash test slash palace in this batch. Now after I run this batch, okay, I will get the output. I will get the test output, test results. Where do I want to put the test result? I want to put the test result in build slash JUnit. There I want to get my test result. I think format type XML is that good. So for running my JUnit target, to summarize, I need a directory where my test classes are there. Because on that folder, I want to run. If I want to run a single test case, I can use single test case. Or if I want to run all tests present in that folder, I have to say batch test. Batch test will run on a folder and a directory. And when I am running the test cases, I will get output. So where do I want to put the output? I want to put the output under build slash JUnit. In that I want to put the output. Okay. So for running these test cases, I want class path. So class path should contain JUnit.jar. Class path should contain build slash classes. Where my compiled source code is there. Okay. So all this together form my JUnit target. Anywhere you write JUnit target. Now once we have this target with you, the only thing that you should be concerned whenever you are writing JUnit at work is, okay, what is the directory? This one you need to change. Where is your source location? Compiled source location. That one you need to change. Okay. Then where do I want to put my output code? Here I am putting in build slash JUnit. If it is somewhere else, you need to put it somewhere else. Otherwise, the directory attribute, the batch test class path, just the elements in this JUnit. Which directory I want to run my JUnit? Do I want to run on single test case, or I run the test cases present in one folder? That is batch test. Okay. Then for running the test cases, I need some class path. That is this class path. So directory, batch test, class path, and formatter type is equal to what kind of output do you want? HTML, XML, or plain text. This is formatter type. If you have these things, you can run your JUnit test case. Okay. Now since I am having a new folder build slash JUnit, let me go and create the build slash JUnit. And let me make my default as run test now. Or let me make package only. Package, okay. Now I will say for running test cases, how do I put my dependency? After I create the package, then I will run the test cases. Okay. I will say run test depends on package and compile test. Whenever I say run test, first it creates package following all this stuff, and then it comes to compile test, compile the test cases, and then it will come and run the test cases. Okay. Clean, init, so clean, compile, clean, init, compile, jar, copy web, package, then compiling test cases, then running test cases. Okay, running test cases has failed. The test case has failed. Okay, doesn't matter for us it's failed or not. That we will look little later why it failed. Now let me go and check if my folders have come. So under test folder I have my classes, which is good. All things are compiled. Then here you can see for every test case I am getting an output. You can say test suite, errors, failures. Okay, it prints all the details about the test failure. What are the properties it has used? So cell test is giving class not found exception. Cell test. Okay, let me put this also in my class path. It clearly told class is not found. When you get class not found exception means it is not able to identify that class. Okay, cell test. So that is the test case, right? I missed that in the class path. That is the mistake. So let me put. So I have put that also in class path now. So Java knows where are the class files that it wants to run the test cases. Compile jar, compile test cases, run the test cases. Okay. So you can see it has slightly modified. It has completed the test execution. No errors also. System.error is there is nothing in the error. So these are you will look at your test results also. If you give formatter as HTML, okay, I don't think HTML is there. I'll just check it again anyway. There's another task, JUnit report, I think, for getting HTML output. So this is your test execution. How you run JUnit, how you run JUnit test cases with your ant.